On Monday's video, talked about Jesus' proclamation on the cross. He cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And it's quoted, it's shown in Aramaic and then translated. And he was quoting from the first line of Psalm 22. And those that were standing there that were familiar, that sang these songs, knew what he was saying. And just wanted to spend just a little time in Psalm 22 reflecting on the very thing that Jesus was doing in that moment and in his life as he humbled himself and came as a human being, as a man. And we can read in there, we can read in Philippians, he said how he humbled himself to become like a servant like us. In Hebrews 4, we read that he entered into our humanity so that he could experience, and he has experienced all that we have. He understands, he cares. And to see the picture of Jesus entering into our humanness in order to rescue us, to deliver us from that which was killing us. In Psalm 22, it's a beautiful psalm. It's a messianic psalm. And this was what Jesus was referring to as he actually experienced this feeling of being separated from God. And yet we know, he said, my Father's always with me. We know that the oneness, the union of God and of God, Jesus and his Father, never ceased. God was in Jesus, reconciling the world to himself. This is such a beautiful thing when we realize the significance and we dwell upon, we think about, we reflect upon just how powerful what Jesus did was and how much it communicates to you how important you are to him. So in Psalm 22, it says, God, my God, why would you abandon me now? Why do you remain distant, refusing to answer my tearful cries in the day and my desperate cries for your help in the night? Think how many times, whether you've experienced this feeling, you know the others that do, that have. And Jesus was able to actually experience this very feeling, this very thing that's so real to so many people that, and as I said before, our feelings are real. They're just not always true. And so Jesus, in his entering into our humanity, into the delusion of separation from God, because how can the one that we have his very breath is why we even have life. We are not separate, but we seems and it feels that way. He says, I can't stop sobbing. Where are you, my God? Yet I know that you are most holy. It's indisputable. This is the very nature and character of God. We can say holy. We can even connect that to he is good, always good. He never changes. God is the same at all points in time. And so here we have, he says, I know that you are bigger than this separation that I feel. You are God enthroned, surrounded with songs, living among the shouts of praise of your princely people. Our fathers' faith was in you. Through the generations, they trusted and believed in you, and you came through. And in fact, that's the testimony of God. He always comes through. So even if you feel what Jesus was feeling there on the cross, that God is far away and separate, and he's not hearing you, as this psalm, and I've encouraged you, and I encourage you again, read it, spend some time in it, as it tells us that he does hear. He is there. He is not far distant and way off. This is what Jesus was getting at on the cross when he cried out, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, as he felt what we as people, as humans feel. And he goes on, look at me now. I'm a woeful worm crushed and I'm bleeding crimson. I don't even look like a man anymore. I've been abused, despised, and scorned by everyone, mocked by their jeers, despised with their sneers, as all the people poke fun at me, spitting their insults, saying, this is the one who trusted in God. Is this the one who claims God is pleased with him? God's the one that said, I am pleased. In verse 9, he says, Lord, you delivered me safely from my mother's womb. You are the one who cared for me ever since I was a baby. Since the day I was born, I've been placed in your custody and your care. You've cradled me throughout my days. I've trusted in you, and you've always been my God. It's just, there's so much power in this when we realize that God wasn't saying, Jesus, I can't be with you now because you've become sin. He says, I am always with you. And yet Jesus enters into that notion, that feeling of being separated from God. And that is not reality. And there's something in that, if we are not separated from God, but we feel it and we believe it at times and we act accordingly. And we are crying out, making the same cry. Read this. Read Psalm 22. He finishes in the Passion Translation, it is finished. And Jesus did finish it all.